Alright, so this is an old lid I've had lying around for years, and in most cases, you would just replace these. They're cheap, $5 or less, probably less. But I do want to just go through, I mean, in this case, I am going to repair this one. It has been chewed by the culprits, in this case, mice or rats. So I've done a repair to this one ages ago, and that's held up for a long time. There's nothing wrong with that. But I am just going to show you a quick fix. So in this case, I'm going to be removing this troubled area. So if the cut was close to the end of one of the leads, we could just replace the actual plug itself. Right, so in this case, I'm not going to lose much length by chopping this section off and bridging it together. So we'll start by essentially, let's turn on my soldering iron. So we're going to start by cutting the troubled section off. And that's bad. You can see where it's also arced and tripped the circuit breaker. So we've cut out the troubled section, right? We've just snipped it off, and it's not going to lose too much length. That's a foot, 30 centimeters. Not too bad. But yeah, if it's closer to the edge, to the plug, you can replace the plug. But a lot of the times a good quality plug with screw-on terminals is going to cost you more than a cheap extension lead. But yeah, just going to go through the process in the case where you might want to change. It might not be a cheap option. It might be connected to something, right? And you can't change the lead. So this can be applied universally. So as I said, a repair that I've already done on it, which has lasted ages, and it's very rudimentary, is by using one of these screw terminals. You can buy these for less than $1 for a set. And then you can strip the wires, as I'll be doing here, and just add the two screw terminals on to the same color wires, tape it all up. It's not ideal, but this has lasted ages and it's seen a lot of hard times, and it's not an issue. It's still got the strength in it because the wires are connected and then it's taped around. But in this case, I will be doing a soldering repair. So we are just going to essentially strip back some of the wire. So I don't have my Stanley knife with me. Alright, so pull out so you've got enough to kind of deal with. Okay, so that's fine, and you're wanting to do the same on the other side. Alright, so you want a bit of heat shrink. You want, now you can do this with electrical tape if you don't have heat shrink, but you know, it's just a cleaner sort of a job with heat shrink. So basically, strip the wires. If you don't have that, you can do it with pliers, pull off. Right, and do the same on the other end. Give yourself a bit of room, like don't strip it really close because then you're not able to to fold them around. So a little bit more. Now, there's a couple of ways that you can do these. The best way is to keep them a little bit flared and then actually weave them together and then give it a bit of a spin. Oh, I've just gone not blue on blue. So you've got live active and earth. So get the color combination right. But yeah, you can flare them up and just feed them through each other and then give them a twist. Then you can solder them together, or you can just, it's usually easier to just twist them around themselves like that. So you end up with a nice twisted wire and then solder that together. But obviously you don't want to forget to put in, if you are using heat shrink, put your heat shrink on first. Save yourself a lot of hassle in the long run. So pop on your heat shrink. In this case, the heat shrink may heat up a little bit on the soldering iron, so it is nice to give yourself a little bit of room. Usually I would have given myself a little bit more room, but I'm going to be relatively quick with the solder, so it shouldn't give the heat shrink too much time to actually heat. 1, 2, 3. And then start your process. Now, before I go ahead and put it all on, I'm actually going to go over the whole thing with an even larger bit of heat shrink, because I want to heat shrink as well the insulation. So if you're going to go across all of those, you want a bit of heat shrink that's going to fit the bill. And then just pop that on and forget about it for now. Ideally I'd have a smaller bit of heat shrink there, but that's all right. Okay. So you match your colors. Together. And make sure you get both sides of the solder to contact. All right, so what I usually like to do is just, because these are strong welded, but the insulation also offers strength in terms of tensile strength on the cord itself. So I generally just start, clean up the two ends, start on one end with some electrical tape, have a nice sort of grip on it, and then move your way down in a coiling manner. Right, everything is electrically insulated, so that's fine. We're just offering a bit more physical strength to it. So in this case, because I'm just going a little bit overkill, because I've got the heat shrink here, and it is thick heat shrink. So just gonna do that, put my heat shrink over it. So that gives it a good strength and a good visible layer. So so that's done, and you know, you could, if you don't want to use solder, or if your environment is really hot and you think that it's going to be left out on the concrete and the solder's gonna, you know, remelt, you could use crimps instead of solder, and just crimp those wires instead of solder them, and then just do the exact same process with the heat shrink. But for my application, solder's fine and works well, and is durable. So I prefer the solder option, but you can do the crimping option. Some people suggest that, yeah, crimping is better for the voltages involved and the temperatures. But yeah, I go with solder. So that's it. So that's now a nice strong lead, and you can get people back to work. But generally speaking, an extension lead like that, I mean, that I've had that for 5-10 years or whatever, and it's fine. And you know, but generally, if it's cracked, flared, it's probably time to change it, and it's probably better. But you know, if you don't have the ability to change it, nothing's available, and you've got the soldering iron on hand or one of those screw terminals, put them all together, tape it up, make sure it's tight, it's strong, and it'll hold. Most of these houses nowadays have circuit breakers and ground earth protection, so it's not a problem. But yeah, cheap, quick, easy fix, and it's back on the road.